Well, hi everybody, Ken Johnson here with you, and we're just going to update you on the latest weather information in regards to the outbreak of cold weather headed to the U.S. next week, and also any chances for wintry precipitation across the deep south as well. So let's get right to it. If we take a look here, this is temperatures as of early on Tuesday evening. We're still looking back into Siberia. You know, there's actually some temperatures back here that aren't really too bad for this time of the year. Usually even 30, 40, 50 below zero, even more than that, but there's still some chunks here showing up. I mean, some parts of the eastern half of Siberia showing up with minus 45 to 50 below zero. And even though you can't see it, but it extends up here into the North Pole, and then it kind of drops south over into parts of Canada and even into the northern part of the U.S. here. Some pretty cold air dropping south. But you also notice a pocket of milder air back here in western Canada. And if you watched my last video here, we talked about this as well, that anytime you start seeing the temperatures mild up or become a little milder, the west coast of the United States, western Canada, and then up into Alaska, that's always, especially this time of year, a warning sign that we're about to get cold in the U.S. What happens is that warmer air pushes the jet stream northward, and it causes the jet stream to go across the poles and then drop south down into the U.S., bringing all that cold air with it. So yeah, winter is coming. So across the country, at least between now and Friday, the weather really doesn't look that bad unless you're way up north. But as we head into the weekend, the first surge of cold air heads south Friday into Saturday here. Out ahead of it, mild weather across Texas and Oklahoma. But as we get into Saturday, blustery and turning a lot colder. And this isn't even the coldest of the weather, folks. We have another blast coming in behind this that arrives around Monday of next week, and it sticks around through at least the middle of next week. And there's some indications that this could really be cold, and we could go into the deep freeze for a few days here. But we're also going to have to watch this as well, and this is something that's kind of been showing up on and off in the weather information here. Yesterday didn't show it as much, but today again it's showing it. Shows a little piece of energy. This is not too different than what happened with the last winter storm. On the backside of the cold air, you have a piece of energy dropping to the south, and the question will be, how does this evolve? You know, and if it evolves correctly, it could bring some snow and ice chances to the deep south, perhaps early to middle parts of next week. So let's talk about it first. And when we look at these weather patterns, we want to decide as a meteorologist, is it going to be cold? Is it going to be hot? Is it going to be stormy? It all starts up top, okay? You have to look. We look at the atmosphere from the top down. And this is going to be up there at about, it's called 500 millibars, or about 20,000 feet in the atmosphere. And what you see are, these are called areas of vorticity. And the atmosphere has spin in it, okay? With the Coriolis effect, the spin of the earth, the curvature of the earth, it creates these areas of spin in the atmosphere. And that's what you look for when you're looking for storm systems and you're looking for cold fronts and that kind of stuff. So if you watch here, here's your spin. That's your polar vortex. Polar vortex right there. Notice how it's stretched out. And when it begins to stretch out, it really begins to pull that cold air in. So there it is. You got milder air up into Alaska here, and here's your cold air coming down from Siberia, the North Pole, through the Arctic regions, and it's dropping south down into the U.S. Most of the country with this pattern is going to be cold, with the exception of maybe southwestern parts of California, where they need colder, wetter weather, but I don't see any of that headed their way anytime soon. But what we want to watch when you have a stretched out pattern like this, you watch the energy on the backside to see how it evolves and how it develops. So we're going to put this in motion here for you, and we're watching this. So there's a disturbance. You could even say that this is going to be a bit of a storm system. And if this thing, what we call close off, become a little bit more circular, and maybe tilt in a different direction, maybe tilt a little bit more to the left here, it would begin to close off some, and that would give more lift out ahead of it. So you got the cold air coming in from the north here, you got southwesterly flow aloft. Most of the time, when you get this type of weather pattern, somebody's going to get ice or snow across the deep south here. We'll just have to see how this thing evolves. This is the European computer model, and it does show this system kind of separating itself from the main jet stream here, and this would create a lot of lift out ahead of it. And if this pattern does indeed materialize, then there could be a pretty good snowstorm and ice storm for the south and southeastern part of the country. Now, back our way across Oklahoma and Texas, this might bring some wintry precipitation, but again, it just depends on how everything comes together with it. So if we look at the afternoon run of the GFS, now I'll say the morning run of the GFS had widespread snow and a more significant winter storm across the south. But at this point in time, our weather models are just not going to handle the situation well. They don't know what to do yet with that piece of energy out west. They show what it tries to do, then they say, no, not so much. Then they say, oh, yeah, it's going to do that. So this is what makes forecasting winter weather a big problem, especially on out extended ranges. I know you see a lot of these ice and snow maps. You know, there's nothing I can do about it. We just live in the world of weather hype now, from some good sources, some bad sources, but a lot of people do it. So let's put the afternoon run of the GFS. You're going to see a much more, let's say, benign snowstorm here. Not as much as the morning run did, but here we are on Saturday. A little disturbance, maybe bringing some snow showers. Oh, maybe to parts of the region here, but nothing major. But there's the developing lift with that storm system out west there. And it shows maybe some lighter snow up north, but it shows a better chance for snow and maybe ice across central and southern parts of Texas. Now, the problem is the afternoon run, instead of closing that off and developing a bigger storm across the southern part of the country, it just kind of pushes it down into Mexico and kind of squashes it a bit. And that weather pattern would lead to better chances for snow in the central and southern parts of Texas, maybe even Houston, maybe even down into deep South Texas with this, and maybe a little bit over there in the Gulf Coast, but this would not suggest as big of a winter storm. But again, the weather data is just going to go back and forth. That's just what it's going to do. I mean, there's just no way for us to accurately predict something that's still a week or so away. We can look at the pattern. We recognize the patterns. We recognize that it's going to be cold. We recognize that there's going to be a storm system in the vicinity. But what we don't, or we're not able to answer at this point in time is how will that impact everybody? But this is about the middle of next week, showing still some chances for some wintry precipitation across the southern and southeastern parts of the country. So again, we do know that something's going to be out there. We just don't know exactly how it comes together and who sees what just yet. And will this impact North Texas or Oklahoma? That I don't know just yet as well. So if we look here, here's our cold weather. There's your cold air dropping to the south. This is kind of Friday. You can see it up here into Canada, down to the northern U.S. Here's your milder weather down to the south. Matter of fact, Thursday, Friday looks really good across the southern part of the country. There's your initial surge of colder air arriving on Saturday. And it just kind of builds and continues to build in Sunday into early next week. And you can see this big dome of really cold air sitting there, shooting down to the south here. But again, out west, southwestern parts of California, it looks like you stay warm. And this type of weather pattern, unfortunately, creates windy weather out there, too. Fire weather conditions just don't get any better. But look at how cold it is across a good part of the country. I don't put exact numbers. The colors here just kind of represent how cold it's going to be. So remember, I'll just keep an eye on things, and I'll continue to post updates on my social media pages, the First Alert 6 weather app, and also on News Channel 6. Remember to like, subscribe, and follow my pages. Everybody have a great night.